I always get a little bit antsy right when the music starts, and it probably leads to me more often than not like doing a stupid little dance over here that makes me look like an absolute moron. So if you're listening to this through audio, you can simply disregard all of that. I'd like you to just erase that from your memory, not think about my fat 250-pound ass jiggling around in my office chair here, dancing to the songs of Matthew Billingsley. But you guys know what this song means. You're, I'm sure, much less anxious to hear this music because you know it's time for Against the Mob podcast. Of course, this is where Matthew Billingsley and myself, Logan Carpenter, take a day out of our week to rant about the evils of government, to give our liberty-based spin on things, and to tell everybody what they're wrong about in the universe.
What are we wrong? What are the people wrong about this week, Logan?
What are they wrong about? You know, if that's going to be my tagline, I probably should start with like a massive, hey, everybody's wrong about everything. I did, hate for bikers last week. I guess that was a good one. But I don't know that I necessarily have one. Maybe we can spin this first topic into why everybody's wrong about climate change potentially. Although I think most people have blamed this on climate change already. But I brought this up already, so I know you have heard of this as of 20 seconds ago when I said it before we started recording. But
right.
How about the flooding in the Sahara Desert?
I really don't know that much about it, except that there's a lot of standing water. I think it's pretty cool. It says that it showed nearly 8 inches of rain in some parts. That's a lot of water.
Quite a bit, especially when you have
areas. Pretty cool, really cool imagery.
And we both grew up in very arid climate in West Texas, and what's rapidly becoming a desert, it seems like. I mean, I think we watched sand kind of form along the sides of the road as we went through our college years traveling back home. And I remember being kind of blown away by like, oh, that's legitimately sand in the ditch over there. Like, I don't remember sand when I was a kid.
Right.
Erosion of the soil. And what you see in a lot of those drier areas, for one, ground gets dense and compacted as it lacks moisture. So it doesn't absorb the water as quickly. And you see like huge amounts of flooding when you do get water out there in Lubbock. There's a Marcia Sharp Freeway, which does dip a little bit below ground level, where it's cut out through the city there. But it hilariously will rain 4 inches in a day in Lubbock, Texas. And Marcia Sharp is 20 feet underwater, impassable to vehicles. Now, part of that is probably because the city planning of Lubbock didn't account for much rain, being that it rains maybe 12 inches a year on average up there.
Yeah.
But it's hilarious to me to watch it absolutely flood over.
Yeah, it takes a lot of planning. And even if you do plan right, there's still a threshold to how much water a system can handle. So, I can't even hate on Lubbock that much.
Right. And when there's absolutely zero elevation change throughout the entire city, there is a little bit of that of like, how often do you have to build a drain to get the water? Because there's going to be so many spots that are not draining water to the area where you need it to go. When everything is just completely level throughout the city.
No doubt. I mean, I don't know. On the climate change issue, right? It's probably happening. I mean, I don't know. It's been pretty freaking hot everywhere. We continually getting warmer summers on record. However, I can tell you that here's where I know that the answer is not giving government trillions of dollars and more power over our lives. I know that that's not the answer, but I'm definitely not like a climate deny. It's like, of course, the climate's changing. Like anybody, I think anybody that has, I don't know, a modicum of like intellectual consistency and comes at it from like a good like a good faith argument. Come on, you're gonna tell me that you don't notice anything? I mean, it's like
no effect with everything that we're doing.
I think
it's. I mean, climate change, I think, is kind of the natural order of.
Of course, it always changes.
We know the Sahara was a green jungle 20,000
for sure.
And I wonder, who knows? Maybe we get to see the beginnings of that change within our lifetime. With they're projecting kind of like weather pattern changes. I believe what I was reading was that they think this is occurring because of hotter weather, specifically in the ocean, causing more water to evaporate, allowing it to then rain in the desert there.
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, I'm not I I think I took one like atmospheric science classes as just like a fun elective in college, and it was a cool class. But I don't know, it's makes a little, hotter surface temperatures. Hot air can hold more moisture, stronger storms, larger frequency of hurricane. You know what I mean? It all just kind of checks out. And I can tell you that I know, giving the government trillions of dollars and complete control over our life, that is not the right answer. But I don't
Yeah,
know.
to give
You
us
could,
more money so we can fix the weather is
yeah, it's
that is a
that's
snake.
a horrible argument, but I'm definitely not one of those that, because I know people that will just argue with a straight face. Bullshit, all a hoax. If climate change wasn't a hoax, then how come we're not underwater like Al Gore said? It's like, well, first off, it's Al Gore, right? It's like don't use this man that none of us revere as now
His
like
projections were
the
within a time
bedrock.
when it was important to vote for him for president. That
I
was
bet to say like
maybe maybe had
it's
some
like
influence on his timeline was the fact that he was running for president of the United States.
for sure, and it's like don't don't use somebody that you're gonna that I know that you'd have nothing good to say about in any other context. Don't use him as the bedrock of your argument. That's what I'm saying. Like, I think anybody that argues with this from like a place of good faith, I think I don't know. It seems like consensus is kind of, and all it takes is one scientist to disprove consensus, and I can repeat all of the talking points. That's the thing about it, and it's
Yeah,
all
that's
just,
fair.
and
I do
maybe
feel like
that's
a
go
lot of
ahead.
this is like everything else in our society these days. It's become a highly politicized topic as well. So there's a
Right,
little bit of, and as every topic that has a political lean to it goes, you're required to have a very strong opinion on it, whether
right,
you've done an inch of research or not. So we end up with tons of people who hear it and it's like, oh wait, I vote Republican, so that's all bullshit, or I vote Democrat, so we're actually going to destroy the world in the next 5 years if we don't do something about it. We need to
right.
completely convert to electronic cars, put in solar panels everywhere, even though we don't have the technology to support all of that
No,
necessarily.
sure don't.
Or it's time to switch over to batteries, even though it causes us to implement slave labor in foreign
I mean,
countries to get lithium out of the ground.
that is one thing, and like the consistency, right? I just wish there was some intellectual consistency amongst pretty much every aspect of life. But when people argue about like, oh, well, we need electric cars and what, and it's like, well, cool, because your car is still being like, they're still burning fossil fuels to create the electricity that now powers your car. And besides, it's like, if you ever seen those mines, do you know how much diesel and petroleum and oil is used to mine those things? Those things definitely don't run off electricity. You know what I mean? Like, those are massive machines consuming a massive amount. I had heard that like one of like it's like a year of those mines in operation produces more fossil fuel emissions than like 20,000 people would in over the course of their entire life. It's just like some outrageously skewed thing to where where it's like, don't piss on me and tell me it's raining. That's what it feels like.
That's part of what's so infuriating about it too, is that it's always, as everything in government works, it's like, hey, this is a big problem. We need tons of funding in form of tax money in order to address this. And then there's no actual follow up or consideration of what's actually good. It's just like these platitudes to the voter base of like, well, we're going to require everybody to have electric cars. Or my favorite one, I think I've probably said on here before, like, it's almost impossible to find a small truck in this country right now. And the reason for that is because the eco standards for an engine on a small truck are so much more restrictive than they are for like a sedan, that you have to make a truck that the gas mileage is so incredibly impressive that it runs more efficiently than a Volkswagen Jetta. So the result of that is they only make giant trucks in America,
Hmm.
and every dickhead who needs a truck buys a huge truck, and we have gigantic diesel chugging vehicles on the road everywhere, simply because it's not available or even realistic to get a small truck in this country.
Yep. I love my Tacoma, and I will never give that Tacoma up. That is one of those I'm gonna get half a million miles out of that thing. I've got 178 on it, and she's just getting warmed up, dude. Like, it's just broken in, man. It's still got, and that's the thing about, well-made vehicles and stuff. It's you change the oil, you do the standard, 100, just maintain the thing. and that truck will run forever. I know somebody that's got a Tacoma, like I guess it's an old school Tundra, which kind of is what the Tacomas became, but they have 640,000 miles on it, and it still just cruises along like like the day they bought it.
Yeah, that's another sad part of that story when it comes to car ownership in this country is just the way that they have degraded the quality of vehicles over time. And part of that, I think I've heard from a lot of mechanics, is adding in all this electronic stuff that complicates the engine and is just simply more things that can go wrong. But I had an old Chevy truck that I rolled in high school.
Love that truck.
Thing had 250,000 miles on it and ran as reliably as it always did, which was not perfectly reliably, but it was a vehicle that would run.
Reliable enough.
If you had something go wrong, you could pop that hood open and it looked like a lawnmower under there. And it's like, I understand all these mechanical parts. This is pretty simple.
For sure. I have a 94 Jeep, and same thing. You know what I mean? It's so simple. It's so easy. You can get all of the like I can go to any like stock online parts store, and you know what I mean? Like blew the radiator in it. Cool. $40 later, here comes the new one. You know, it's like so super easy. It was like I was down for a day and it cost less than $200 to get, to get the parts, take it to the mechanic. He's like, yeah, it'll take me 40 minutes to replace this thing because it's all so simple.
Yeah, I had a Honda CRV that I bought when I got my first big boy job. Bought it brand new because I was a moron. And there was something early on that I was going to change in it. And I looked up my YouTube video and figured out how to do it and got the part. And I opened the hood. And then I realized, like, oh, my fingers don't fit in between the components of this vehicle. There's no way for me to do anything on here without taking 5 things off. And at that point, I'm ruining an engine. So it's time to take it to a real man who does mechanical work.
Yeah, it's a bummer, man. That's hard out there. Well, so the Sahara's flooding, climate change is a hoax. Al Gore, Al Gore. I don't know.
I always had this dream. I'm jealous of the Sahara right now because of the desert we lived in growing up, and the family land that I have out there that's still bone dry. There was a part of me that was like, "Hey, climate change doesn't mean everybody gets the same thing." I mean, there's a reason. When the Sahara was a jungle, Europe, where most of our larger societies are today, was a wasteland of ice and nothing existed there. And I always thought just maybe, this climate change will bring 20 inches of rainfall to West Texas a year. And all of a sudden that will become some massively popular farmland. I guess the problem with that, have you ever heard why it's so dry in West Texas? Do you understand the science behind it?
What, because we sucked all the water out of the Ogallala to grow corn and cotton where we shouldn't?
I would imagine
you want to talk about the hubris of man. Let's grow cotton and corn in West Texas, in Oklahoma, dude. It's
cotton capital of the world, baby.
Shame on us. God gave us clean drinking water for all of America for hundreds of thousands of years, and we're going to drain it in 200 to grow corn and cotton. Shame on the hubris of man. Just grow hemp.
Without all of that corn, though, do you think we could have ushered in this age of diabetes and obesity that we have now? I mean, you got to break a couple eggs to get to where you want, all these saturated corn syrups.
Yeah, I don't know. Can you make like high fructose hemp syrup? Can you bastardize hemp in the same way that you can corn? You know what I mean? I don't know, but I am curious.
Hemp syrups before, but it wasn't the same kind of syrup, I don't think.
Yeah, no, that's fair. that's closer to scissor.
Scissor. It's because of the Rocky Mountains and the Gulf of Mexico. So there's warm water that comes up, or warm air pressure coming up from the Gulf that pushes air north, and then there's the mountains are so tall that the rain from the west coast isn't able to penetrate, and it gets some kind of blow. There's a word for it, something blowback that I don't currently recall. That basically pushes the clouds back out west, and so it leaves us with an airstream pushing all of the air and water that would be coming from the east to the north, and it can preserves it from the Rocky Mountains. So my thought as a young man contemplating this problem was like, what if we just go on like a bombing run through the Rockies and just try to flatten a nice hunk so that the air can get through? And I don't know if that's like a solution to the rainfall in that area, or if that's more like how you create the largest tornado you've ever seen.
I was about to say
Now,
there's like the
now there's
consequences
cold
of that
weather
would be
turning
so much
everything.
worse.
You're
And
completely destroying. It's like Kansas is now the red spot on Jupiter for the rest of eternity.
right, the Great Red Spot. It's just Kansas.
In the continental tornado in the states of Kansas, Oklahoma, and Nebraska, we've had a total of 120 tragic deaths.
Right, it's so true. I have no idea how many bombs it would take to try to level just a small pathway in the Rockies. And I know exactly what you're talking about because that's how, like, when the weather forms up here, like in the summertime with the monsoons or snowstorms and stuff, like it stops over the because I live in the valley that's just a little bit over from the big mountain range in the area, and it stops. Like it just like the weather will roll in and it just sits over that tall mountain range. And then eventually it rolls over to us. But I mean, you see it even in the microcosm that I live, and if you factor that in for the entire length, that makes a lot of sense because dude, the Rockies aren't giving up that weather.
This kind of sounds to me like you and I could be modern folklore heroes, both saving your ski town and supplying water to the heartlands of America
What, so
by
you
just going
guys
on like
can grow
unhinged
more
dynamite
cotton?
run for 10 years.
So what, yeah, you can grow more cotton and make sure the city of Houston, as gross it is, has clean drinking water? Pass.
Have you ever seen the drainage system in Florence? No, you went to Italy at once. I don't know if you got
Hmm.
into the
Oh,
dorkiness of
like,
the
wait,
well system.
you're talking about the town of Florence or Venice?
Could be Venice.
And this is the one with like all the canals and stuff, all the water.
Yeah. Am I
Yeah,
thinking of Venice?
we were told when we went over there, do not jump in the water because here is the list of 20 vaccinations that you're going to get to combat all of the diseases that you could if you fall into that water. It's not, it's just poop water. That's all it is.
Water at
It's
this
just
point.
all poop. Those canals are so gross.
From what I read on it, it was quite so. It's not the canals itself. It's the rather the well system that they created in this city.
Oh,
It's
I don't know
they
anything about it.
essentially found the centers, and there's 600 of these wells, or over 600 that they dug, and they dug down deep, uh, and then because it's a city surrounded by water, but it's undrinkable. It's salt water. I think I
Hmm.
am thinking Florence, wherever I've
No,
been.
no, that's Venice.
It is Venice. Okay.
Yeah.
So essentially, they took gigantic squares, dug holes, lined them with clay, and then filled it with sand and stones with
Okay.
drains in the corners. So that kind of is a natural filtration system, and put a nice stone well in the middle.
Oh,
This is a
that's
very
cool.
interesting way to adapt to it, and one that we don't make any attempt on in modern cities because we have things like water treatment plants. Like, why would we have to worry about creating a natural water flow? I don't know. It's these things. I wonder how many of these things too have been abandoned, like the fruit tree problem in this country, where we have such massive pollen problems as a direct uh, downstream from a government program where they decided that they did not want to exacerbate the homeless problem by having fruit available to eat on every street corner. So rather than planting the male versions of trees, they required that you planted the female versions, which ironically also only put off pollen because they're, or excuse me, other way around. We only planted the male plants that release the pollen rather than the females who would create the fruits. And the irony of that is,
Ah,
if you don't plant any of the male plants and you only plant the female plants, then there's no pollen and no fruit.
dude, leave it to government programs. Like, yeah, I think that's a good segue. I think to bring up Logan's wonderful critique of democracy.
I do love this. This is my new favorite thing I heard. It was from Curtis Yarvin, who's like also the guy who coined the phrase "red pill," and that sounds like he would be a neo-Nazi. I understand, but even in my kind of introduction to starting to listen to some of his stuff, he does say that he created the term "red pill," and as an autistic post-libertarian, any good autist would, he praises the concept of the Matrix, and how wonderful it is, a mirror to what society truly is. Um, but essentially, his idea is kind of how we use red pill still. That it's kind of an awakening to what government really is. That it's a understanding that these are not just abstract good guys. That there are corruption within government, and that it will inevitably attract and grow on its own corruption, which was then immediately co-opted by 4chan and neo-Nazis and has become kind of today, which just means not woke or not left. But yeah, he had this criticism, and he kind of goes on this long rant about, we all kind of, for the most part, understand politicians to be a negative term. We have very negative connotations with that, whereas we have very positive connotations with democracy. But these are really, in a lot of ways, synonyms, both democracy and politicians. And the line he used is that democracy is the only form of government that guarantees your leaders are politicians. And I just thought that really hit me in the chest, you know?
It is. No, it's a really good critique. I guess the alternative is that if you're not ruled by politicians, then you're ruled by what? Warlords, dictators, tyrants, monarchs. You know what I mean? It is a great critique, but it's like, I don't know, maybe it's better. Maybe it's better than, I don't know, Saddam Hussein, you know?
Kind of almost comes back to that idea of democracy is the worst form of government, except for every other form of
All
government.
the others, yeah. I think that was
I
Winston
think,
Churchill.
and to be fair, and I've run across a lot of post-libertarians that kind of come to this same conclusion, which is maybe where Kiefer, yourself, and Jamie are all headed eventually. This is your future. I'm letting you know.
I think I'm already in my post-libertarian stage. I'm
Right,
a
but they're
self-prescribed.
next
But
stage.
tell me where I go next.
So most of these like deep thinkers that have gone through libertarianism and then post-libertarianism, a lot of them arrive at monarchy, including Curtis Yarvin. He's a big monarchy guy, and it's a lot of this idea of like, look, you have the potential for good and bad in every form of government.
Sure.
And if you have a bad monarch and a dictator, it's horrible. It's the worst thing to live in. But you're never going to get good leadership out of politicians. You're never going to get good leadership out of people promising you out of the coffers of the government to heal all your problems. So we're doomed to have a bad system here. Whereas in the area of monarchy, you could theoretically get a perfect monarch or a great monarch, or you know, a monarch that's actually going to push things forward. So that is one where a lot of those, maybe that's a phenomenon we need to look more into in a future episode as well.
Going
but
into yeah.
R.R. Tolkien, the Curtis Yarvins of the world, all kind of arrived.
I love that, the concept of anarcho-monarchism. It's like, well, the king's dead. Let's see how well you play the game, because we're having a civil war, and when you win, you're the king.
The most just. Well, God will lead the most righteous hand.
It is a true meritocracy. If it's like anarcho-monarchism, it's only the best can rise to the top. No, it's like there's so much to unpack there.
Listen, I have a huge standing army. It's a wonderful army, the best army, they say.
It's not the only thing that's huge.
Kamal's army is a bunch of big old pussies.
Yeah, no, that's I wonder though, is it like, are we just so jaded and tainted by the current amalgamation of like the political class that we get today? And I didn't live through other times, so maybe maybe these people have been, you know, painted in a favorable way through the, you know, the annals of history. But I don't know, it's like, the more I look into Calvin Coolidge, like, dude, I'd vote for that guy in a heartbeat. You know, he gets into office, doesn't do anything for 6.5 years, refuses to elaborate, then leaves. Oversees like the largest economic boom, and maybe that boom was going to happen anyways. You know what I mean? It's like, you can't maybe give him all, but I don't know. It's like, I take a Teddy Roosevelt.
I mean, economics is a long-term game. And it's, I mean, even the Trump Kamala thing, like. Trump seems to have done a pretty good job of convincing most Americans that this is the Biden Kamala economy that sucks so much.
Right.
I mean,
he started.
When did we print all that fucking money? Yeah, right. Trump allowed all that money to be printed under his term.
Yep.
And they got to
knowing full well.
Look at all this inflation that's going on.
Knowing full well that was going to take a year to a year and a half for the effects of that to start to rear its ugly head. No, I hear you. And so I just wonder though about and this is something I've been chewing on, where it's like, maybe maybe I just want to see a better political class at the end of the day, because maybe, and this is I went through, I got so gung ho into it, and then having just like, I don't know, been worn down by the system and the inevitability of some kind of state. I just I would like to see like a class of people, and that's all they do. Like you will, and maybe that does go like closer to that monarchy thing, to where it's like you guys will be the rulers one day, and we're going to make sure that you're well versed in all of the things that actually matter. Because the problem, and this is where I fully agree with that sentiment and where you're coming from, there is a huge difference between a good administrator and a good leader versus a good speaker and campaigner. Those are two radically different skill sets. And somebody that is a really good campaigner, probably, you know what I mean? That's like the idea of governance and the day-to-day of being an administrator versus campaigning are two radically different things. And so probably the best amongst us, that even if we, keep the current system that we have, the best amongst us that would actually do good or do a better job in those roles would never be anybody that, you know what I mean? You could never get a single vote to get cast for them,
Yeah.
because they'd just be such uncompelling humans. But they probably have the skill sets to actually be like really good governors, really good mayors, really good legislators. But
There's some really drab speakers out there that are highly intelligent people. And in fact, sometimes that high intellect is correlated with the inability to connect on a personality basis
Right.
with a person of an IQ of 98, who's doing the voting. And I don't know if it's a product of like late stage democracy, so to speak, or our current culture of like pumping up celebrities and the worship we have and a reverence we have for celebrity, combined with social media pressures. But I mean, it seems like it's getting worse and worse of a popularity contest. Like it's becoming more and more like, I don't know, who can get up there and say the sweetest thing and sway the crowd. And that's really, and kind of create the biggest base.
for sure.
I do find it interesting. I mean, the Republicans got just eviscerated on a party level kind of after the Bush administration. Like we all saw the horrible lies we got put in. Everybody was calling George W. Bush and Dick Cheney the Darth Vader and the Emperor.
Oh, but now Dick Cheney's the savior of the Republic, because he's going to vote for Kamala.
There is some of that. I can't believe that's being used as a positive.
I'd have to say, it's like you guys hate it. It's the same argument as Al Gore. It's like you would never use Dick Cheney, and you would never say his name in any sort of reverence in any other conversation. So don't tell me that she is. Don't you dare like invoke the name of Dick Cheney like that. I know what you guys say about him in any other context. I'm not buying it.
You're right. I had somebody say that to me at work the other day about like I don't remember the context even, but they were kind of doing that thing of like, well, even Cheney and Bush don't like Trump now. And I couldn't even hold back. Usually I try to be a little less. I talk plenty of politics at work because I can't help myself, but I try to be soft,
cordial.
And I had to just be like, are you kidding me? Like, dude, we went to 20 years of wars in the Middle East. That was the worst human being on the planet. And I don't like Trump. I'm not saying he's worse than George W. Bush and the Cheney administration. There's just no way. That is lunacy. You don't understand the damages that they cause if you're making that argument, unless you were making the argument about monetary policy, I suppose, because he did print an incredible amount of money.
No doubt. No, it's so true. It's so crazy how people will evoke the names of these people that have been despised. Kind of like there was kind of like a unilateral consensus and understanding about like how we feel about Dick Cheney and Paul Wolfowitz and Donald Rumsfeld and all of these other horrible neocons, just horrible, evil people. And now
the damage they did to that image tanked the campaign of the unbelievably charismatic Jeb Bush. Who
Sure. That's what it
That's what
takes.
kept Jeb out.
That's what
the only
that's what
reason.
that's what it wasn't Donald Trump sitting over there saying that George Bush lied us into wars. You know, and it was definitely the neocon support of Jeb that kept him out of the White House. Yeah, for sure.
Also,
Or
just like Jeb was always kind of the loser brother, I guess, in the family. But man, when you name
loser
your kid
governor of
Jeb,
Florida.
you for Bush standards grading. But to name your kid Jeb, like, is it Jebediah? Maybe what is it short
Name
for?
determination is a very real thing. It's like you can look at like Tom Hanks' two sons. He's got Chet and he's got Colin, and they look exactly how you would imagine.
Yeah, Chet's out there just exacerbating the white male hate in the world. He's a poster child for everything that is wrong with white men.
Dude, for sure. Chet evokes like, I don't know, mid-30s, still parties and talks to like teenage girls somehow, probably has a drug problem, definitely has a DUI. You know what I mean? Like, I can just paint, you say Chet and I already know exactly who I'm picturing.
Not sure about the underage girl thing, but I think everything else you said is like well documented to be true about Chet.
Oh, really? Well, it makes sense. I mean, all you can do is just look at him. I mean,
he does definitely have that white guy who wears exclusively like gangster rapper attire and way too much jewelry.
Like, yeah, for sure.
Dude.
Yeah, what's he? Dude, that's some Drake faggotry right there. What you know about FUBU, Chet, Drake? Spare me.
How dare you tarnish the great name of Drake?
I'm
so upset. Did we ever even release the audio of you promising to go through the entire Drake catalog?
No, we didn't. And so to catch everybody up in one of those episodes we never released, I went on a massive just Drake hate rant. I might have to find that one and publish it because I'm pretty proud of my visceral hatred for Drake. And I view Drake as I do the corporate press. Like, you can say that you hate Drake, but you don't hate him enough. It's he is in the exact same category as like vile creatures. And I in my I probably got lit on that podcast. I was probably a little drunk by the end of it. I said that I would listen to Drake's entire discography because I'm doing an album a day thing for this year and could not make it through a single album. I tried every single one. I made it like 2 songs in. I just couldn't do it. I also went and tried to like.
It's probably because you were listening to it wrong. I think you're supposed to get in a bubble bath with a glass of red wine and put a couple candles on.
And we'll just stick it. Yeah, for sure. It's like, where's the sex toy that I stick up my ass that I sit on in there too? Like, what the dude? Fuck that. Fuck Drake.
Hey, we have photo evidence now. I would be shocked if there's not a Drake sex toy out there. Like, how somebody had to capitalize on that, right? It's got to be a popular item. That's become one of my favorite kind of troll things. Is like whenever I hear a Drake song on in public, whoever's playing it, I go, "Hey, Kendrick said no more. We're not doing Drake anymore."
Kendrick said,
which I'm glad that we got like the cool factor of Kendrick, because I have been a longtime Drake hater, and people would dismiss me as like not having good musical taste. But now that I have the weight of the social cachet of Kendrick behind me,
dude, you got
people kind of cower when I bring that up. People are like, "Oh shit, he's right."
Compton's on your side, Logan. This might be the one and only time ever that the entire city of Los Angeles will stand in solidarity behind you and support you.
The whitest man in America.
You'd have their support, I'd imagine. Dude, I just love the fact that I can't wait. I cannot wait for the Super Bowl halftime show. And I don't care what people say. Like, who cares? Fuck Lil Wayne. He's fine, but he's whatever. I don't even think that Kendrick's going to put on that great of a halftime show. I just can't wait to hear him scream "Certified Lover Boy, Certified Pedophile" in front of the largest audience in this country ever.
They let him on that song? You think that's on the approved list?
They
don't know if
better.
Kendrick cares about the approved list, but
He strikes me as like some Rage energy, where Rage was like, "Hey, you know, it's like that BBC show where they had him perform for New Year's Eve, and they're like, you can't say that,' and then just like, fuck you, I won't do it. You tell me." As he's flipping off the camera, and they cut. Yes, I just can't wait. I hope he runs that line back like 4 times. Where he just says, he puts it on loop, and he just has the mic out in the audience, and we get to hear a crowd scream that Drake's a pedophile. And I just dude, and I wish I could just like have like, I just want to like collect his tears like Cartman, like, just like Drake tears, they're so good.
Pheromone. I don't know. As much work as that guy's had done, you might get some weird chemical reaction touching those tears.
That's
some American drinking water right there.
Yeah, I hope
fluoride side effects.
It's actually been great though, because guess who we haven't heard from ever since all of that rap beef happened? We haven't heard a peep from Drake, because if you hear 40,000 people in a stadium scream that you're a pedophile, it's over. You're done for. There's no coming back from that. And I hope the Super Bowl halftime show is. I hope he just plays that song 5 times. And
you're gonna be absolutely heartbroken when Drake surprises everybody and comes on stage and they squash the beef.
There's no way. There's no way. There's no way, dude.
I would hope not. It seems like he has his foot on the throat right now. Like he should push. He could be the only guy at the top if he plays this right.
I don't know how like much you got into that, but that song "Meet the Grams," dude, there's no way that if you were willing to say something that mean about somebody and then be like, "Oh yeah, don't come on stage, bro. It's all good." Go listen to that song after we're done. He talks to Drake's son and says like, "I'm sorry your father's such a piece of shit." He talks to Drake's mother and father and says, "I'm sorry that your son's such a bad human. You failed him." Like you don't say those type of things and be like, "Oh no, it's all good, bro." I think you only say that with like such deep visceral hatred. And as well we should. I mean, we don't hate the corporate press enough. We don't hate Drake enough. It's true. It's just, yeah, that's all I got.
Back to actually what we were talking about here. I was queuing up to say like I feel like we at least saw the boat rocked pretty significantly in the Republican side.
That's
like
right. We're talking politics.
We were talking before we started talking about pedophiles.
Oh,
so now I don't
natural segue.
It's definitely not to the level I would like yet, but the quality of Republican candidates coming out that are being spoken of for VP candidacies this year, like your Vivek Ramaswamy's and JD Vance, who ultimately won it, I would say are a massive improvement over the neocons that have been running the Republican Party for the last 2 decades.
Agreed.
Yep. And so
hands down.
We were talking about this with Flirt the other day in a text exchange, but with kind of this shakiness in the Democrat side rather, especially if they do end up losing another election to a MAGA candidate, like hopefully there will be a little bit of a like, hey, let's look ourselves in the mirror here and let's actually put a candidate out that's more than just an empty shell of zero policy, bank bot, big government run nobodies like Kamala Harris, who seemingly has no policies, who basically didn't run a campaign at all because the idea was to kind of run an adversary of what the buildup and the fear of Donald Trump is.
We can hope. However, I think that is a big, because I remember that conversation. I've reflected upon it since. I think that would be that would be the best outcome, but it also requires them to have self-awareness and humility. And I do not think that they are capable of that as the establishment, the DNC. I don't think that they're capable. I mean, dude, Obama just pretty much scolded a bunch of black dudes in a speech saying that, oh, you're not voting for Kamala Harris because you hate women and you're racist. And it's like, maybe we are, but that's not why we're That's not why we're not voting for her. You know what I mean? It's like maybe we are. Maybe we do hate women. Maybe we are racist, but that's not why we're not voting for that bitch. You know what I mean?
I will also point out that it is a lot easier to have the right rhetoric and the right stance on these things when you're not the side in power. And the right has been taking a beating basically since 2008, where the Democrats have mostly dominated outside of Donald Trump getting one election.
So yeah, they've had.
So it is a lot easier to point out the problems of power when it's the other side of the alley, and you get to go, oh, well, these are the things you're doing wrong. I will say, I don't necessarily have a tremendous faith in those same candidates being awesome if they do gain House, Senate majority and presidency. You know, I don't know that Vance's tone doesn't change quite a bit and become a lot more authoritarian when he has the power to do so.
I'm sure it will. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I will not be. I guess if anything, it's like if Donald Trump wins, right, and he starts doing authoritarian stuff, it's not gonna shock me. I'm not gonna come on this podcast and be like, oh, well, I had no idea.
Yeah,
the guy that's refused to acknowledge that he's lost an election. You know, it's like,
it's
I can't
crazy. I didn't see this coming. He was so fair on The Apprentice.
Yeah, right. I can't believe that he's like doing authoritarian shit. Oh, you mean I can't believe the chameleon that JD Vance has turned into is willing to do the bidding for whoa, I'm so shocked by all of these things. How could we have ever seen it coming? And yeah, I don't know. I just don't have a lot of faith. Like, and here's the thing. I will argue with you on the whole, I don't know, politician thing for the sake of argument. But I also don't have like faith and hope in these people. They're all bad. Like we're all like, you know what I mean? Like these are all horrible humans. There was somebody that came on Smirkanish's show. This was a couple months ago, and he'd worked in politics, and then he got out, made $1 bazillion doing think tanks and working Wall Street after. Now he just does whatever he wants. And he worked for Republicans and Democrats as a staffer, blah blah blah, worked for senators. And he came on that show, and it was kind of funny to hear somebody actually say it out loud. He's like, they're all bad humans. He's like, they're all horrible people. He's like, the senators I worked for were bad people. Their staffers were bad. He's like, the whole, like, they're all horrible humans. Like from the top to the bottom. And he's just like, he's like, that's why I got out. Cause it's just like, they're not, and it's like, and so I'm not here to say that like one, cause to me, it's all actually all the same. I mean, there's pros and cons to which, you know what I mean? To what you might see if Donald Trump wins versus Kamala. I have an inclination of who I would like to see win, but that's not to say that I'm going to be stoked. I mean, like the best thing that could ever happen was like a big meteor, just get them all. And that way we don't have to worry about, because I don't want to see political violence.
Both at the White House that day and it hits directly on top of the building.
It's like, just, you know what I mean? It's like if God could just give us a W, and just like a solid meteor.
Right.
On DC,
not an assassination, because that's
I don't want to see that. No way. I don't
want
to see like people mobilize and commit acts of violence like that. I just want to see like God give us like, please, here are please.
Can you believe he's simultaneous lightning bolts that got them both in the noggin at the same time?
It's like free your people of Israel from the yoke of the Egyptian oppressor. Like here are cries. Send us our burning bush. Please give us our Moses.
Please give us our burning politicians.
It's like, yeah. And it's good. No. So it's not to say that I agree. That is the problem with politicians, and that is the problem with democracy. Is inevitably you will be, and whether I can hear the trope, well, their authority's illusion. It's like there's actually really what was it? Merrick Garland actually had I think he was quoted in a podcast, and whether this is true or not, because it's kind of like a recreation of it, but it was about the Timothy McVeigh bombing of Oklahoma City, and that was one of the things where when they started looking into, they started to get some leads and they found out that he's like an anti-government extremist, yada yada. And he's like, oh well, they don't believe in our authority. They think it's an illusion. And Merrick Garland's like, well, we'll see how they feel about that later. You know what I mean? It's like, so you can think that the power is an illusion, but that does not stop the feds from kicking down your door,
Right. Right.
and exercising that non-existent authority. Now, whether you want to recognize it or not, that's fine, but that doesn't stop, I don't know, 45s and 9mm from traveling down the hall.
Yeah, it really seems, and I forget which founding father it was that had this opinion, but it was essentially the opinion that like the old tree of liberty has to be fed with
It's
the blood
Thomas Jefferson.
and
Must be watered with the blood of patriots and tyrants.
But even more so, he kind of saw that as a perpetual need, and like it's got to happen in the future too. Like this will be a corrupted thing, and sometimes I wonder if that's kind of what we're missed. We've tried to maybe over civilize the system a little bit, where like we need a touch of brutality in there to be like, I don't know, every 20 years we got to look at this and decide which politicians need to get killed.
We forgot our roots, dude. We used to tar and feather people. It's like, did you ever see that John Adams series? Have you ever watched that on HBO?
No, I never did.
It's really good. I enjoyed it. It gave me an appreciation of John Adams. Like everybody, right? He's a flawed man. He had his problems. He did, like the big critique against him, especially would be like he signed in the Alien and Sedition Act, where it became illegal to criticize the government in wartime, which then led to, you know what I mean? Like he was not a perfect human. But in the very first episode, I want to say, he's with his cousin Samuel as they're walking through Boston, and it's got John Hancock who's being accosted by the British Port Authority person, and eventually like somebody in the crowd yells, "Shame on you, sir!" And it startles him, right? Because that used to carry weight when other men would yell, "Shame on you." It's like, oh, is my behavior abhorrent? And then they proceed to tar and feather him. But it's like we forget where we came from,
Yeah, and I mean, I've pitched that several times that maybe that's what we're missing in democracy is kind of the guillotine aspect of like there isn't a strong enough disincentive to being corrupt. Like there needs to be a massive punishment, and it almost has the opposite effect. It's like in being corrupt is how you actually become unfathomably wealthy as a politician.
Yeah, no doubt. I think that would be. I think if it'd be a little hard to stomach for a second, but I think it would actually right as incentives matter. I haven't heard you say that in quite some time, but it used to be one of your favorite things. And it is true. The incentives here are stacked in the wrong direction. So I think that would be it is a wonderful system, right? Maybe it's not guillotine, right? For this is all allegedly, of course. Like we're not planning on doing any of this stuff, so please leave me alone. I did file my taxes, so please leave me alone. There's at the end of people's terms, we look at how you vote, and we can weigh based like, did you sell out the American people or not? Because I think that we should treat it like treason. If you go into Congress and you sell us out, you have committed treason against your people, and the punishment should be just. And I think that, like, at the end of it, just like tar and feather everybody. Like, if you're found wanting, we'll see. Hope you make it. Hope you've got some really resistant skin. Yeah,
I think we should like it to take the collective wealth of this country and decide how it's spent and to misappropriate it is not. I don't even think that's embezzlement is not a strong enough charge for that. Like you have wronged the entire nation. It is treason. You have worked against the interest of the American people using their own resources. That is
it is one of the highest crimes for sure. And no, I think there's a level of it, right? Because there's like I know that we give the French a lot of shit, but one thing I really appreciate about the French is their ability to just riot over the smallest things. Like the government wanted to increase the retirement age. It was like 18 months, and France was on fire for like 4 months. is just like, no, we like, you will not cut our pensions, you will not move, and it's just like, dude, they shut down the entire like state of Paris, or like the entire state of France was in like, chaos for an entire summer over like a modest increase of retirement age. You know,
You know, that's a really interesting point too, in that it maybe isn't even the system itself necessarily as much as it is our like cultural norms and ideas. Like we have way too much faith in our government here in this country, and way too much expectation of like, well, they are the government, you know, that's their job, is to completely control every aspect of our life. And we should have a much more violent, feels like a word that gets me in trouble, a much more prickly reaction to horrible government policies. Like we should not be as compliant as we tend to be, when it's usually just like, I guess we'll vote again in 4 years then.
Right. Oh, they got us. We'll get our rights back in 4 years when our guy gets in. Yeah, no, for sure. That's like you cannot comply your way out of tyranny. You know what I mean? You can't comply your way off the boxcar. There's no way. And sometimes it feels like that's an appropriate conversation for this podcast, right? Because I know that sometimes people might misconstrue me as like a status cuck just because I like to have nuanced opinions about things. But I think that
I'm sure the cuck has a nuanced relationship with his woman and her large bull of a man.
That's fair. Yeah, definitely. Well, I guess tread harder, daddy, as I say to government. Just put a gag in my snake's mouth in the boot, like tread harder.
Man, there is I try not to get easily triggered by trolls on the internet here and there, but there is something about the Gadsden flag and the parodies of it that are poking fun of it. Like I saw a Kamala Waltz flag that somebody had made with a cat holding the snake in its mouth, and it says, "I'll tread where I please."
So we'll tread where we want, sweetie.
Makes my blood boil. Like, my message is, don't be a tyrant, and that your reaction is that of like this mocking, like, oh my goodness, that makes me red in the face.
There is something about where you can tell like where your true belief system lies when what triggers you, because there's a lot of things that gloss over. I'll make fun of, you know what I mean, like to a certain degree, like nothing's sacred to me. I'll make jokes about everything, but that one, I saw that, I was just like, oh, I hate you. I hate whoever made this flag. Like, you think, and here's the thing about it is that these are the same type of people, right? And this is how you know, right? Like, let me put my libertarian anti-government hat on, because I haven't worn it in a second. This is how you know the system is flawed and it is inherently wrong and evil to a degree, because the people that would buy that flag or buy that shirt or put that on a bumper sticker want to unleash people with guns to come into your life and tell you what to do. They are way too big of faggots and cowards and pussies to ever do it themselves. They would, you know what I mean? But they want to extend the arm of the state to make you comply, though they have no, like, they couldn't do it. It's like, that's the same type of guy that you like. To call him a guy is actually a stretch. It's the same type of like male, like they have XY chromosomes, but they haven't lifted weights in their entire life. They, you know what I mean? It's nice guy complexes, and those are the type of people that we're talking about when I'm about to that stuff makes me so angry. And it's like, well, won't you come and do it? If you actually feel that strongly about that, like, cool. Come.
If you're advocating for government force to come take it, why don't you
come take it?
Come confront me.
Yeah, why don't you come take it from me? And it's like, I've seen a lot of those memes where it's I don't even know the movie. It's got the clown and he all acts scared, and then he gets like an evil smile. It's like and it was one of those where it's like we'll tread where we want, sweetie, and he goes, oh, and then like smiles, and then all of a sudden like this AR like rises up. Yeah, shame on those
Yeah, there is
people.
a hubris to that, to like stand behind. It's the little guy that stands behind his big friend and yells "pussy" at everybody else in the bar to start a fight.
Yeah,
It's
it's
a cowardice
it
to
is, it
stand.
is, it is, it is advocating because here's the thing, it's like, and people always talk about this, like, oh, I don't believe in guns. It's like, what, like, you think it's Santa Claus or something? It's like they like you can like it, no, it exists, and you'd shit your pants if somebody came and pressed the cold steel of that barrel to your temple. I know I would shit my pants if that happened. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? It's like, but you can't, don't tell me that it's not real. And besides, if something happens, like, you're gonna call the cops. And what do you want the cops to do?
Right.
You want the cops to come in here and use violence with
Shoot that
firearms
guy.
to stop this. So spare me that I'm a good person because I don't own a firearm. I outsource my violence to other people. So therefore, I am morally justified. I am a
Right.
good person because I am not the boot. I only lick it.
And I guess like everything else, it comes down to that just inability to take things to their natural conclusion. Like, if you play these things out, what does it mean to confiscate all the guns in America? And you're 100% for it. I mean, it means basically civil war. It means you're going to kill a lot of people
I
because a
mean,
lot of people
people
aren't
will
going to give
die.
them up. It means
Yeah.
a lot of people are going to go to prison over this. A lot of people's lives are going to be turned upside down. And is it really worth that price? Is that something you're really worth it? But the issue again is that they're not tackling that idea at all. It's just the empty platitude, and often from people who one generation ago didn't trust the government at all and think that Trump is going to be an absolute dictator if he wins the next election and completely take over the country. And in the
Yeah.
same breath, they'll tell you we need to get rid of all of our guns and let the government have the monopoly on force.
We're in the we're in the upside down. It is the utter chaos. I don't know if I ever, like, there's something that's like, very rarely do I like an Andrew Tate take. However, I had somebody send me one that just utterly, I just love it. I'm gonna read it because I enjoyed it so much. The easiest way to deal with a new group of little bitch boy Democrats is to simply call them faggots. They'll call you homophobic and bring out a list of talking points they heard at the gay bar, at which point you simply double down and call them faggots again.
You're soft. I don't need it.
Dude, that's like, I don't know. Yeah, like, rarely do I like anything that Andrew Tate has to say, but that one got me to lull for sure.
Reach something deep in you. All right. So for this next hour, I think we're gonna kind of transition into what we've seen and the movers and the shakers of this political presidential election that's on the horizon here. Imagine we'll touch on this probably every episode up until the election's over, and maybe
Which
even
is
one or two
three
after.
weeks. Three
Right,
weeks.
it's on the way. There's not that
3
much time
weeks.
left. We got a
Before
month left.
before we get into this, I'd like to refill my drink and stoke my fire because it is
No, sure.
chilly up here, if that's all right. Yeah, no, it's already, like, fire season is, it's too, finally broke down and started making fires, but I was so resistant. I even, like, to the point where I turned the heat down, where it's like the heater kicked on and I think I turned it down to like 58. And instead of, I don't know, dealing with it, and I just went and turned the heat down to 55. It's like, it's not time for this, like, it's like, well, that's what blankets and sweaters are for. But no, I finally had started to break down, so I'd like to go stoke my fire and refresh my cocktail real fast.
That's fair. I might take a little urination break myself before I come back to serenade all of you with my voice here.
Alrighty, have enjoy a minute of dead time.
Oh man, what an appropriate time to have put on that music that Matthew made specifically for this podcast that we simply forgot about, huh? Uh, I guess I'll talk to you guys a little bit about Andrew Tate while we're waiting on the return of Mr. Billingsley. Uh, I noticed quite a few, typically on some of this cringe content that I watch, which for some reason I can't get enough of. I quite like watching the parameters of our social circles making asses of themselves online. But one of the common trends I see are the Andrew Tate fans. And I notice a very true thread, true line, a commonality between a lot of these guys I see. Typically, they're in high school, which is when most of us fully buy into horrible ideas, I guess, as in our younger years between, say, 16 and 23, 24, before we become fully actualized, intelligent humans. And we probably all have had our own cringy views that we've held in the past. But I see these Andrew Tate fans, and they inevitably always have seemingly a speech impediment, which is interesting. A lot of times it's the inability to say the word awe. You get that sort of classic fedora-wearing dork from the card store, from the video game store, who has a sense of superiority and yet talks like an absolute weetard. But there's an interesting run of these children who are one never in super good shape, which is interesting to be an acolyte of the Andrew Tates of the world, and for the one piece of his messaging to miss being maybe the most valuable one, which is like, keep yourself in good shape, take care of your body. They're always like small, lispy, non-confident young men who have found this new confidence within the Andrew Tate doctrine. And they're always spewing on about being alpha males, or I think Sigma's the new one, a Sigma male, because a Sigma is like an alpha, but you don't even need the approval of the pack. You're such a hard ass. But always, for people who are so obsessed with being an alpha male, they're never physically impressive or have any kind of what I would consider alpha energy. It's a lot more of that. Not to be a male body shamer, but that small dick energy. It's anger. It is outrage at the system. It is defiance, and it's loud a lot of times, but it reeks of insecurity at the same time. It's this need of masculinity in their life, and maybe that's why Andrew Tate has become a popular figure. I know that like he ran across my radar maybe 6 years ago. On Your Mom's House podcast, which is a great comedy podcast with Tom Segura and his wife, Christina Pazitsky, or probably Christina Segura legally now. But back then I would see clips of him and he would say these ridiculous misogynistic things. And then he would smile and laugh and look away from the camera. So I personally think the entire Andrew Tate thing, at the very least, at the roots of it, is a troll job or a character that he's playing. Who knows what level of conservatism he believes in. I know he's gotten pretty political in recent years. But I don't know. I don't know that I trust anything I hear that coming out of him is sincere, because there is this constant veil of the way he makes his money is through this character that I know he created to make basically funny videos online. That's now spiraled into this much larger thing that he currently inhabits. I don't know. I just find it rather interesting. And maybe it's that like void of a masculine figure in your life. I think we've certainly seen a demasculation of society as a whole in America. And I know that a lot of it is bought as a good thing because we have, terms like toxic masculinity and the issues, and certainly there are negative sides to hypermasculinity, and as in both areas, as yin and yang in the universe works, there isn't a good or a bad in masculinity and femininity. Now, one of them is not positive and the other negative, but rather there are positive aspects of both and negative aspects of both. And I don't know. I just wonder if maybe that's what has led to the popularity of these kind of fake alpha males like Andrew Tate, because there is a void within our own system of masculinity in the positive aspect. Anyway, Matthew's back now, so I'm going to stop playing about Andrew Tate.
I'm sorry. My fire needed more than stoking. It had to be rebuilt.
Yeah, no wonder it's chilly out there, huh?
It didn't take, but it required more than 30 seconds of my life.
It sure did. I went on a good Andrew Tate spiel for about 3 minutes there that I thought up while I was peeing. And then I had to talk for about another 3 mints. And I was like,
"Oh, sorry, sorry, man. I didn't mean to leave you hanging." Well, whatever I caught, I liked. I caught the end of it, and you're probably your thesis is probably correct, and that's probably why so many people like politicians. That probably has to do with like celebrity worship in general. Is that I don't know that we've just outsourced like our hope to other people. And we think that, oh, they can make my life better instead of, I don't know, like, why don't you just make your life better? I don't know. Anyways, I didn't hear all of it, so
look within. It's irrelevant. We'll go on to presidential
glossing over.
Where do you see it moving? So the first thing I wanted to bring up here was this video that I'm shocked you haven't seen yet, but it was, are you familiar with the whole Aurora, Colorado Venezuelan gang stories and all that?
Yeah, I saw some of those. Yeah.
So there's a lot of that. And even in the early days, like both, one side was the Republicans are talking about how the entire city's been overtaken by gang members because of Kamala, border czar Kamala's policies.
That's just Denver. To be fair, like Denver's a shithole. But anyways.
But there were these stories of Venezuelan gangs taking over entire apartment complexes and even collecting rent from tenants as they put in migrants and disposed American citizens from these apartments. And the Democratic side for a while was like, this is all fake. There's nothing to the story. We have no idea what you guys are talking about. But it kind of crescendoed in what I thought was a great clip here that I would like you to watch with me here.
Okay.
Can you see it? Are we up?
Yep.
All right, sweet.
I'm going to stop you. The incidents were limited to a handful of apartment complexes, and the mayor said our dedicated police officers have acted on those concerns. A handful of problems.
Only, Martha, do you hear yourself? Only a handful of apartment complexes in America were taken over by Venezuelan gangs, and Donald Trump is the problem and not Kamala Harris's open border. Americans are so fed up with what's going on, and they have every right to be.
I'm going to stop you. The
Fair.
incident.
Totally fair.
That was a particularly good, like, kind of holy shit moment, too, of like, she had this gotcha moment. But she accidentally said the wrong thing, where she was like a handful.
Or they think that gotcha moment is because that's the thing where this is the thing that I think a lot of people are missing. It's not that people love Donald Trump. It's just that they hate the establishment so much. It is like it's like getting in bed with the Joker in The Dark Knight. You know what I mean? It's not that
was actually my favorite scene of the whole movie.
It's when they get in bed with the Joker.
When Batman and the Joker fucked was the joke.
Oh, for sure. I definitely. I was gonna say it's like, oh, you saw that version too. It was.
Is it the bootleg version? What's going on here?
It's like, well, I don't remember this in the theater version. They got a
really
little spicy, right? It's like, oh, wow, so that's what the Joker's penis looks like. Interesting. But it's one of those things. It's like it's not.
I don't know why I didn't expect the tip to be green, but it did surprise me.
Totally right. It's like, you want to know how I got this scar? It's like,
a rabbi took it from me when I was young.
Okay, we got to stop. That goes nowhere good. But I guess like in that analogy, right? It's not that those people like the Joker. It's not that they even want to be doing business with them. It's just that they hate Batman more and they hate the police more. And so if you take that analogy and apply, it's not that a lot of people like Donald Trump or love Donald Trump or want, you know what I mean? I know a lot of it's just that they hate the establishment and they are tired of being lied to and gaslit by people like her sitting there saying the quiet part out loud. And JD Vance has the appropriate answer. It's only a handful. One is one too many to have, you know what I mean? It's like you should be appalled that there are a handful of incidents of migrant gangs kicking people out of their apartments and taking over complexes. One is one too many. You should be appalled at that and try to downplay it as like, and that's the thing is like they think because they live in this bubble, they think that that's a gotcha moment where it's really like, no, that's fuel for literally half. I was talking to a friend about this, right? And he just can't understand why anybody would vote for Donald Trump. And I'm trying to get, it's like, it's not that people like him. It's just they hate the DNC. They hate the establishment because they look at everything that Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton and Kamala Harris and Pete Buttigieg and Gavin Newsom, what it stands for.
Take that to the Cheneys and the Bushes as well.
It's true. Yeah. They hate the establishment because their life has gotten, in a lot of ways, excuse me, their life has gotten harder in a lot of measurable and objective ways. And you're going to sit there and tell them that inflation is in their mind. It's like I went to the grocery store today. I bought a bottle of whiskey and a pack of sausages, and it was $45. I'm not even buying good whiskey. I've had to downgrade my whiskey because the whiskey I want to drink is now $50, and I can't be going through a $50 bottle every.
Whether or not, Matthew.
What's that?
Do you want to fix the weather or not? We have to make sacrifices.
Yeah, I guess. No shame on me for throwing up that carbon as I burn my fire. You know what I mean? But I like that clip, and good for JD Vance. Good, like I will say that he's good on his feet. And anybody that I've had some people try to argue that it's like, dude, do not call the Yale Law graduate who became a senator at 37 and is vice president nominee at 39. Do not call him stupid. He is anything but. That is a clever and crafty, albeit probably a dangerous man, but he is not stupid.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, those are the most dangerous types of politicians, are the ones who can't. I mean, when somebody climbs that quickly and is that well spoken, I mean, it reminds me a lot of Obama. It was the same kind of pattern. It's like this very well spoken, tremendous on the debate stage. Like Vance, I think, has emerged as a very strong VP, and I think has to screw up significantly not to be the next nominee for president.
For sure. And there's something, and this is probably a really interesting conversation in itself that I haven't thought out well enough to like have a full episode about, but I think that JD Vance is the continuation, like the Republican Party of Ronald Reagan is dead. And I don't know if that will ever come back, right? Maybe it resurfaces as a new party, but the conservative Republican Party of our parents, I think, will never come back, at least in the form that we know it. I think that JD Vance is a formidable standard bearer for the new Republican Party. He is 39, he's 40, whenever his birthday is. That is somebody that's going to be around in politics for the next 20 years, will be a kingmaker. He will have his disciples. You know what I mean? Like we're going to see the MAGA movement take on probably a much more intellectual positioning and posture, right? We're going to get better arguments out of JD Vance than you are Donald Trump. You know what I mean? Like Donald Trump's Donald Trump.
You already are. Yeah, Donald Trump is
he's Donald Trump.
And then, I mean, hey, what a great legacy for him to leave behind if that ends up being what it is, if he actually changed, even if his policies have proven to be horrible for the American economy in the long run, and who knows what else if he gets another term that he'll find a way to fuck up. But if he can just essentially take the swelling the base of what made MAGA, the anti-government sentiment and the tire of the wars and the censorship, and hand that over to some actual intellectuals who can articulate those ideas to a point that they make sense and aren't just Donald Trump screaming about eating pets and by
They're
Haitian
eating the
immigrants.
pets. They're eating the
They're
dogs.
eating your dogs.
Yeah, I think that could be tremendous. I would say, again, to just keep beating this dead horse, wait
Beat it.
until the Republicans are in power. You know, if Trump wins and then Vance has 2 consecutive terms, I'm dubious to think that the momentum continues down a route that I enjoy and doesn't turn back into closer to that Reagan era that you're kind of saying is dead. I think it is encouraging. Obviously, like we there's no room for Bushes in the Republican Party right now.
Yeah.
And I think that's tremendously
I
encouraging.
think that's great. I think that's a, and I don't know if it's I don't know if it's like a step in the right direction, but it's an improvement. You know what I mean? Like I don't know
Yeah,
if I don't know
at the
if
very
the
least
amalgamation of I don't know if like the conclusion of what we're living through is ultimately a good thing, but it's better than well, I don't know. I actually I'm
This
not
is
even gonna say that.
different.
It's different. It
It's
actually
different.
might not be better. There might be a day where we look back and be like, oh, dude, if we could only
It's-
have like the Bushes back, like, oh, the stability, at least my life was safe. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
you
At
just
least
worry
we,
about like
at least we
how
bond-
long does it take them before they turn? These are still Christian conservative people who would love to live in a theocracy. So
Who
how
knows?
long do they have to be in power before they start stomping on rights of anybody who doesn't believe the same religious beliefs they do and have the same sensibilities they do?
For
And,
sure. And I hate that.
I'm positive that they're
I
not
hate that.
tremendously better. But I'm with you that it is
It's
at the very
different.
least encouraging that there was a repudiation of
Mm,
a terrible regime that had been a political powerhouse in this country for longer than my lifetime.
right.
You know, the Bushes were a staple of the Republican Party. They were set. Jeb was supposed to be the nominee. And all of a sudden, this guy came in here and started yelling about how they lied us out into wars. And it was like, oh, shit, he's really. And I don't think that by any means Trump is what we need to fix this system. I don't think that he has the tools in the toolbox, and I think he's done plenty wrong. But, you know, to that point, at least the rhetoric had to be that the system is broken in order for him
Right.
to get into power. So
You
at
don't
the
think-
very
you don't
base,
think
at
the
least
Orange
that's
Man
encouraging.
can lead us? You don't think the Orange Man's our Moses? And him coming down the
You know-
escalator was our burning bush.
That's ascension from heaven. No, I don't think that at all.
Dude, I can't believe you don't believe in our orange savior.
In Orange Jesus. That could be a pretty good t-shirt there if we ever get the t-shirt shop going. Is just the classic Jesus with the white robe and the red sash, but the big orange fat face of Donald Trump on it. Orange vote for Orange Jesus.
Dude, for real. It's no, you're totally right. There's something to be said about I don't know, like the powerhouse of a good speaker. Because I mean, Obama's rise, like he spoke at that DNC, and everyone was like, "Who is that?" I even when I watched the DNC this year and he spoke, I was like, oh, "Man, that guy's good." Like
He's
he is,
really
he
good.
is good.
He's really He's a good speaker, man.
man.
I mean, there's a
makes you-
reason he was able to rise to the office of presidency with
as a junior senator.
not much of a resume behind him. You
A
know,
junior senator. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's
and as
impressive.
the first not white man to pull it off is
It's
there's
impressive.
something to be said for
Says-
that.
Says a lot. Yeah, no doubt. All right, I like the JD Vance clip. That's great. I like I said.
That's fun
Well,
stuff.
actually,
So-
let me just flash this banner.
Yeah, great banner. If you're not reading that because you're listening to audio, it says, "No matter how much you hate the corporate press, it's not enough."
I need to
that's a
edit that and then
It's
say and Drake as well. No matter how much you hate the
Yeah,
corporate press.
that's a sentiment that Michael Malice puts out on maybe every podcast he does, and every time I hear it, it just fills my heart with joy. It's absolutely right. We should have
Okay.
so much more disdain for the mouth of the federal government, the mouth of the tyrants that rule you. So I did want to get to JD Vance seems to have emerged as a very strong VP, at least when he's standing up next to Mr. Walz on the debate stage. And also we have some interesting rumors swirling about Walz with our October surprise. We were an episode early, and neither one of us had Tim Walz's making teenage boys suck his dick as the October surprise.
Yeah, I have done no more research into that. And so I can't, you know what I mean? It's like I have no idea.
And it's
Is
always
is it
sketchy when
is
you
it
have politicians just before an election get a bunch of
is it
sexual
true? Is it
trafficking charges
not?
and
You know what I
whatnot.
mean? That one's like maybe
There's
it's like at this point I say this and it breaks my heart to even say this. I'm not surprised about
yeah,
another high school teacher or coach, you know what I mean, doing weird things with children. It's a theme that is far too common. And but I don't know. I guess if what I'm trying to say is like I don't know nearly enough about it where I don't really even want to get into it. I mean, you know, if
and we
to
don't
be,
have to. I more wanted to bring this up just to kind of ask this question is because of the seemingly large gap in quality of VPs. Do you think that even matters? Is there anything that a VP does to influence a race really at the presidential level?
um I don't know. I know that VPs will never help you win elections, but they could lose you an election. You know what I mean? Like there's like JD Vance, as much as we've talked about how like good he is on his feet. I know a lot of people that are just so turned off by JD Vance. And that, you know what I mean? That it's like, well, I was actually thinking about voting for Donald Trump, but now I just probably won't vote. And I think that's what we're seeing. I think that's probably going to be the biggest factor is who turns off the least amount of people because everyone has their base, right? Like Donald Trump and Kamala Harris have their base of 45% of the voting bloc of this country. That is not going away. What we're now trying to figure out is who gets 2 to 5% of this weird 5 to 7% of undecided voters. And
That's a
that's
really
what's
interesting point about them being able to lose it, but not really adding. I see a lot of validity in that because it is who, I mean, JD Vance is being praised and held up by people on the right, and they love it. And that clip that we showed there, oh, that was fodder for conservatives. They're super
I
on
like
it.
that part. I
It's
like
been
that.
going. I liked it too because
I like
anytime
that.
you bash the media, I'm like, cool. And a great to watch a proponent of media on TV every day just show their ass like that is pretty funny.
Right.
But that's not convincing probably any middle of the road voter, any undecided voter. And kind of the same for Waltz. Like this negative stuff coming out about him is going to turn off some conservatives, but they weren't voting for his ticket anyway.
They weren't going to vote for him
So,
either.
and I imagine anybody who has a nuanced enough opinion about politics probably has about the opinion you just had about all that Waltz rumor swelling. Is like, I don't know. This happens to every politician. This has been in the playbook forever. There's always weird allegations that come out right before the election. Often they get settled out of court immediately after that when the election's over because nobody actually cares about it.
Right.
And you know, how do we know any of this is even true? So why should that sway my opinion? That is a good point. I kind of like that this VPs are at best a neutral,
And at worst, they're a liability. But and there's something interesting too about like that bump. And I'm regurgitating this, but I did not do all of this independent study and research myself. But there were, I can't remember who was on whose show talking about like bumps in the polls and like they say the VP pick from your state, it's worth a half a point to a point in that state. So it's not even a big swing. You know what I mean? It's not a 5-point swing. It's not a 2-point swing. It's a half maybe to one. However, if you are, when you're talking about like Pennsylvania is probably going to come down to like a margin of less than 10,000 votes. You know what I mean? Pennsylvania is going to be super close. And if I was, it's like I would have picked, you know, but there's probably, you know, who knows what the conversation was. But if I was Kamala Harris, I would want the radically popular, moderate Democrat from the most important swing state as my VP.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I would want Josh Shapiro as on my ticket if I was Kamala Harris. That is by far the best choice.
She did want him.
Well, and it's probably he probably didn't want her.
That's
because if I'm Josh Shapiro, it's like I'm not getting. It's like I'm going to be president in
Why am I going to be?
six to
Kamala
12 years anyways? You know what I mean? It's like I'm on that trajectory. I don't need to lose with you and drag, you know what I mean? I don't need to ruin my reputation right now. I'm still like, I have like a 65% approval rating in this state. You know what I mean? Everybody loves me. And it's like, and it's not even that he's like, he's not a raging, he's a mod, right? He pushed through school vouchers in Pennsylvania, but that's a very conservative idea. So it's not like he's, like I said, like he's a raging moderate who happens to be a Democrat. But yeah, that's neither here nor there. But I want Josh Shapiro.
I 100% believe that she did as well. That's what all the rumors and all the betting market showed he was the most likely. And then all of a sudden he pulled his name out of the hat.
And then here comes the football coach from Coach Walls.
Coach Walls.
Defense
coordinator.
It reminds me, just like it's like, I don't know. It's like all of a sudden, like
if Pennsylvania comes down to exactly one vote that the Democrats win, do you think there's some kind of uproar about that guy getting shot in the stands there?
Wait, what?
And the guy, the firefighter that took the bullet at the Trump rally and passed away?
Oh.
What if that's the deciding vote?
Well, then I guess mission accomplished.
Then good job, kid. Turns out he didn't miss his target.
I about to say, I guess you did sway the election. Maybe not the way you thought you would, but job well done.
That was wild. So part of why I wanted to talk about these politics too, and maybe I think the most salient conversation to have at this time and the most kind of relevant moves I've seen. We've seen a little bit of, especially the betting markets are starting to favor Trump once again. Again, very thin margins still. We're talking about like a minus 145. So this is like a anytime touchdown for CD Lamb type of odds sort of thing. it's not a done deal by any means.
Way to just sneak your Cowboys in there. That's some heavy copium. I see you.
It's just the first one that came to mind.
Okay? I'll let you have that. Actually, I'll let you have your copium. You just keep sucking on that.
I will go out to say I will guarantee the Cowboys will not lose this Sunday.
Are they on a bye?
They are on a bye week. So
okay. All right. Anyways, betting markets.
So we've seen the betting markets kind of move a little bit towards Trump again. And we're starting to see polls that are breaking more even rather than in Kamala's favor. And even a couple polls are kind of coming out towards Trump favor. So it seems like there's been a move of this. Now, we've definitely had conversations with each other. I'm not sure if we've recorded them necessarily, but it seems like the Kamala campaign was going to model that of the last Joe Biden campaign, where essentially we have made Orange Hitler over here in the media. So that is all that we need the voters to think about. There's no reason for us to even discuss policy or have this person speak in front of camera because they can only take us away from that point. And the entire weight of our ability to win this election lies upon the hatred of Donald Trump. So that should be the majority of this campaign. So I find it interesting right now that we watched that play out for a couple months with Kamala Harris. And all of a sudden, Kamala Harris is going on every single show she can get on right now. And I guess I was asking what your thoughts on that were, but I think to me it smells a little bit of, if not desperation, definitely fear within the Democratic circle.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that the speaking tours, she is not on a speaking tour from a position of power. And that's just my guess, right? I don't know. I don't know any insiders in the DNC or the Harris campaign, so I can't source this directly. But it seems to a layperson that likes politics like you and I and lets it, consume more of our life than it probably should. You don't do that if you're winning or if you feel like you're winning. You know what I mean? I think that it comes from a place of I need to get out there because there's a lot of people. That's why I like to listen to like Michael Smerconish and Dan Abrams, because not that it just is a really interesting snippet of a cross section of people, right? Like they have enough money to afford a $12 Sirius subscription. They care enough to listen, and they care even more than that to call in. And so it's a very interesting subset of humans in this country, and they're all self-proclaimed moderates, to a degree. And there's a lot of people on those shows that call in, and they will always say, I do not like Donald Trump. That's the first words out of their mouth. And then they go, but.
I was about to say that sentence sounds like it has a but.
Then they say, but. And they start talking about authenticity problems with Kamala Harris. They start talking about, you know what I mean? They start listing out reasons why she's a flawed candidate. And the copium side of they want to say, but Donald Trump, but. And it's like, no, you've also rolled out a very uncompelling and like unappealing candidate. And her going on Fox News, I think, says everything. You don't go on Fox News. I think that if you were so confident that you're about to win, why would you ever step in the lion's den? Stay on The View. Go to Howard Stern. Oh, what a fall that man has had. It's rivaled only by that of Stephen Colbert. You know what I mean? It's like, what a fall that man has had.
It's like Rage Against the Machine. Your whole image was anti-authority. Your whole image was...
Now you can't see our concert unless you're vaccinated. It's Rage with the Machine. It's Rage and the Machine.
Yeah, what was the old get vaxxed or I'll call you a Nazi?
That
was the song we never parodied.
Get vaxxed or I'll call you a Nazi.
But it is like to be the guy who was made popular by being the counterculture and by being the naughty boy, by going outside, and then to shill for any political candidate is just grotesque, man.
I mean, dude, those old Howard shows, wild. I mean, just wild. The things that he had on.
I was more of an Opie and Anthony guy, but they were the same thing. They were competing to see who could get the closest to getting canceled. Essentially, they would do the most outrage. I mean, Howard Stern had strippers come in and sit on top of boom boxes and try not to have an orgasm while he blew music through it. Like that's a pretty unacceptable idea, especially for the 90s. And then to see him become what he has, of just an absolute shill for the governmental policies of the left.
Oh yeah,
like,
it's a fall only rival by that of Colbert.
I guess the alternative, the Opie and Anthony show went the other way, where Opie just became a lunatic and Anthony started screaming racial epithets into the internet and got himself canceled.
Let's just say you either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become a Nazi, I guess.
Oh, that was good. I wasn't ready for that line. I do think, and specifically with going on Fox News, and I've seen a lot of political ads. One of them I'm going to show you here in a moment that I also confirmed you hadn't seen yet, which is just a piece of political art right there. This is got to be like an attempt to appeal to white male voters. I mean, there's specifically a Kamala ad, not the one I'm going to show you, but another one I saw today looking for that one. And it was all about like, you've been demonized for the last 10 years, white men. Aren't you tired of everybody saying white men are a piece of shit? And guys like Vance and Trump are making it even worse with their rhetoric. Well, how about this? As a strong man, I'll vote for who I want. And I don't like either one of these politicians. They're both like you can feel the pull for the middle there. Like, I don't like either side. I'm going to vote for one side to change it out for something that's just as bad. That's insane. But I'll tell you this, I like things that make my life better and my family's life better. And I like a president that has a plan. And that's why I'm going to vote Kamala Harris. And if somebody asks me who I vote for, I'll say it's none of your damn business because I'm a strong white man. And you're just like, ugh, dude. It made me feel so gross to hear those.
Ick. Ick.
It's pretty rough stuff.
What? Dude, that's wild.
But it all seems to be centered around this, like, it's an aim for male voters, and specifically white male voters, it seems like. And I wonder if that's, a little bit of an indication of why we're going on an interview for Fox News tonight that you and I can't wait to watch after we conclude this podcast.
Yeah, I do wonder. I mean, there's always going to be, like, every candidate's going to have demographic problems, right? Like Donald Trump is just not going to do well with women. Simple, like Donald Trump's not going to do well with suburban women. Simple as that.
Excuse me, I've done really well with women.
That's why the one I'm married to can't stand me.
A lot of people say, Donald, why didn't you marry an American woman? And I tell you, I'm more charming when you can't understand my words.
Ain't that the truth? Yeah, no doubt. I know this is well, that's never mind. That's a sidetrack. That's not worth going down. I do, yeah, the appeal and the pitches is what's really interesting, because I don't know how many people you can actually read. And that's the thing. It's like Mark Halpern's got like a really awesome YouTube channel, and it's boring in the sense of like it's in the nitty gritty. It's very moderate, so it's called Two Way, and he just talks to undecided voters, or he talks to voters. Like, why are they, you know what I mean? And it's like, it's 7-10 people in a room. There's nothing, you know what I mean? There's no sound bites. There's no gotcha. It's just like regular people talking. I think it's fascinating. I think most people would find it utterly just boring. You might as well turn on C-SPAN. You know what I mean? But I just don't like, I don't know who she is going to reach on Fox News. I just don't know. I just don't know that many people that are actually undecided. I just don't know that many.
That's another good point I hadn't really considered. Like, yeah, who are you trying to reach on Fox News? Like, I wonder, and it did pop in my head earlier. There's been a lot of rhetoric around like Donald Trump is too scared to do another debate. Donald Trump's just hiding away, which is kind of hilarious when he's out doing a rally every weekend. But they're trying to paint it like Donald Trump is the one, especially Donald Trump's the one who doesn't want to get in front of a camera. Oh, he's scared to talk. And at the same time that started as a campaign strategy is kind of when you saw Kamala Harris start doing a shit ton of interviews all of a sudden. So maybe that's part of the play there, is they're trying to paint this picture that Donald Trump is cowering from Kamala Harris, where she's like, look, I'm strong enough to go to Fox News and do an interview. Like, you don't see Donald Trump going to CNN doing an interview, even though he did a debate on, the left side's platform.
Fake tapper. That's why you're fake news. You're so nasty. That's why you're a nasty journalist. I've never had to.
Your head movement's impeccable while doing the interview.
I don't know. I have no idea. It's so wild to watch all of this unravel in real time. Also knowing that like most people are not stoked about, that's the thing, that's the layer underneath this is I know some people that are excited to vote for Kamala Harris, and they're better than NPCs, but not much. Like, they just picked up the controller. I'll put it that way. You know what I mean? It's like,
which buttons jump again?
Exactly. It's that's kind of the level of involvement I revere. I give to some of these people. They're like, "Well, I'm actually excited to vote for Kamala." I was like, "Okay, I bet you are." Right. but
that has been my favorite pastime as of late, as it gets closer. And hilariously, people that I tried to talk politics to for the last 3 years and they rolled their eyes and ignored me are now like trying to tell me who I should vote for, and like kind of breaching the topic of like, when you really think about it, Kamala or Trump's got this and this going on. I'm like, you just started paying attention.
Spare me.
I do a fucking podcast about this.
Spare me.
I don't need to hear that shit.
That's also my favorite saying right now. Just spare me.
But that's been my favorite one, is like, can you imagine having that level of irreverence for a politician?
It's gross.
It's ew.
It's gross,
ew.
Yeah.
You're praising a politician, especially in today's day and age when we know they're all pieces of shit.
For sure. And you find some you find a few good ones out there, but you're probably only going to find them at the local level. That's a whole different conversation. But especially when it comes to these are all horrible people, and they do not deserve our reverence nor our respect either. Like, they're bad. They're just bad humans. They're bad human beings. And I don't know. I'm curious though, because the thing about the Electoral College, we should probably do an episode about the Electoral College. I think it's really interesting. And I don't And like part of me likes the electoral college, and then part of me doesn't. And I wonder about like just a straight national vote and everyone, because like take California for example, there are more Republicans in the state of California than many states have, like population wise.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And those people are disenfranchised
Their
every
voting is
single
not- yeah.
election. It does not
Hey, you
matter.
say the same about Democrats in Texas, There's been some like rumors that Texas is going to be a purple state in the future and maybe go blue, but
It will be purple in the future.
as of right now, like if you're a Democrat that lives in Austin, your presidential vote just doesn't matter. It
Yeah.
means nothing.
Texas will
I
go
do,
purple in the future.
I guess
For
that my biggest like defense of the electoral college is there was at one point in time a contract signed that said we will join the union if we have this amount of voting power based on our geographic size, and population and whatnot. So to throw it out is, I think you at least have to give each state the ability to go, hey, we're actually going to opt out. We've decided that this is no longer the contract we entered in, and we would like to be the free state of New Hampshire from now on.
Right. Yeah. No, it's a tough one. And we'd have to do some serious like work on that one to have an educated conversation about the electoral college. But anyways.
Back to our presidential race we have in front of us here. Excuse me. Have you heard the rumors swelling that they may go on the biggest media show there is? The Joe Rogan podcast?
I've heard that. I've heard that both of them may make an appearance. Cool. I mean, I'd watch it.
Yeah, absolutely. I did see an interesting breakdown when I heard Dave Smith talking about it, and that he's not sure this would be a good thing for either candidate, which I found interesting because, for one, just imagine Kamala Harris having a 3-hour conversation. Good luck getting anything positive out of that.
Oh, Joe, first of all.
Joe, I grew up in a martial arts family myself.
Joe, first of all, my mother taught me martial arts. And, Joe. And then
the other thing he brought up, and I don't know if I have the exact level of belief in Joe Rogan that Dave Smith has, but he called him a human bullshit detector. And I will give some credence to that. Rogan is decent at when he gets a guest on that he's not perfect. There are some things that go over his head, but when he doesn't believe what you're saying, he will make you sit in that moment, which is, for somebody who is an absolute bullshit artist like Donald Trump, it's maybe not the best environment to go sit down for 3 hours and
totally fair.
See what Joe Rogan's going to grill you on. So it's interesting. And one knee-jerk thought I had is Rogan should try to have them on pretty close to the same day, or at least the same week, and he shouldn't release one episode without getting the other one secured. Because I wonder if there's a disastrous episode by either one,
the other's going to cancel.
Right. Why would the other one even want to go on the show? Just let them soak in it.
And I think that I also wonder, so what just popped in my mind is that why do we act like there's still like some sort of rhyme or reason behind our politics? Like, politics has descended into utter madness. Like, you hear people say like, oh, I don't go to a Trump rally to hear his policy questions. I want to be entertained. Like that, like, dude, Donald Trump,
I go there to get drunk and scream, just like NASCAR.
And I mean, it's like, I don't know if anybody actually cares. I think like the idea of like an educated voter, I think that's an oxymoron at this point. Like, maybe once upon a time that may have been a thing, but most people aren't educated about the issues. They don't want to be educated about the issues. And so it's like, why are we still going?
If you don't read the news, you're uninformed. And if you read the news, you're misinformed.
That's a really good way to put it. I don't know why. Like, why is there still this? Maybe it's just like clinging to the veneer of, there's still educated reasons why we vote. It's like, it's just a shouting match. It's like, dude, it's the circus, but instead of like going to the circus to be entertained, they're like the audience is now subjected to like the pain of the circus. Like, we feel the monkey's pain. now. You know what I mean? It's not cool. Like the circus is no longer cool. We used to go to like watch and then go home and be like, "Whoa, did you see that? That was wild." And now it's just like now the circus is like held us hostage, and we have to stay in there, and we got to go backstage and like suffer with the animals. Now it's
You got to put on the clown makeup and the tutu. You're part of it.
and I don't know. Would that change? Would them going on Joe Rogan change anything? And honestly, it's like I say I'd watch, but it's like, do I actually really want to listen to either of those people try to talk for 3 hours? Because both of them are like they are the same person in the sense that you can never get an honest answer out of them. You ask them direct, pointed questions, they will misdirect and never answer. They will always, you know what I mean? I don't know if I could suffer through 3 hours of that. Where Joe Rogan can ask the same question, Joe, and then you get Joe, I just don't like the way that you ask.
Interesting.
You're so nasty. It's so nasty. That's why I've never been on your show before. You're a nasty man. You're a nasty man. You probably like Kamalama Ding Dong.
Kamalama Ding Dong. I think that would be maybe the benefit of it though, is Rogan does tend to make you sit in that moment, and he doesn't like to let people skirt away from the question. Like when he's had 2 people on to do a debate before, I've seen him stop it and go like, no, you didn't answer the question. This is the question that was asked. Do you have an answer for that question? Now, who's to say Rogan's going to be the right guy to be asking those questions? Feels like he probably needs to have Michael Malice in the room with him to make sure the right questions get asked.
I mean, Michael Malice is too strong of the person to be in there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like nobody would ever, because that's somebody that could eviscerate them. Both
No,
Donald
for
Trump
sure.
and Kamala Harris would be ruined.
Maybe
by
just give him a little,
Michael Malice.
give him the Kamala hearing aid earring
Yeah, right.
thing so that he can call into Rogan. Rogan's got giant earrings on for this podcast.
I guess what would be interesting is like I could just see that because sometimes I'll listen to a Joe Rogan episode wanting to hear the person he has on talk about what they're good at and what they know, and he just subjects them to talking about aliens and AI, and so I would love to have instead like an interesting like a good political debate. Joe Rogan's just like, yeah, but what do you think about the Anunnaki?
And dude, that could be honestly though, if you get Donald Trump trapped in a room for 3 hours with Rogan, we're going to talk about aliens. We got somebody that might know in the room.
I know some things. I can't say something. I know that this would never happen, right? But I think this is probably how we should solve the election. We should just take Joe Biden, Donald Trump, and Kamala Harris, take them to a neighborhood, insert less than fortunate neighborhood in any inner city. And let's just have each of them say the N-word. And whoever doesn't doesn't get murdered on the spot. Like that's okay, cool, you won. And I know what I love death row. I know how to say the word. You can't use the hard R. They don't like that. But honestly, it's like that's how we should probably just have both of them say the N-word, and whoever says it the least worst. You know what I mean? Like, okay,
just
cool.
Pick random pool of like 10 black people to stand on stage with them and just watch the facial
watch the reaction. Yep, watch the reaction and
see if anybody takes a swing.
For sure, because you'll know. I think that's how we should probably because that's just as good as any other method that we have now. Instead of spending billions of dollars on all these political ads and campaigns, dude, let's just take them into Compton and have each of them shout the N-word. Whoever walks out all right, they're the president.
You won. You've passed the Hunger Games. I will say, at the very least, and I hope they both go on the Rogan podcast. Not even because I necessarily want to hear it all that badly. I will certainly listen to it, but I think it's encouraging to see this move away from the corporate media. I'm trying to refrain from saying mainstream media because I mean Rogan gets more views on every episode than any show on a major cable network. But I think it's interesting to see it pulled away from these and podcasts are coming next. There's going to be a swelling of podcasts that are paid. I mean, there's already, I think, probably a swelling of shill podcasts that have been paid off by the government. But at least there is this move from what we know is a dishonest, bought and paid for corporate system to this more free market kind of idea space where people aren't all that interested in what they have to say on CBS or CNN. But there's going to be a record-breaking Rogan podcast 2 weeks in a row if he has the two presidential candidates on.
No, that makes a lot of sense. That's a good point. I mean, they are like between his podcast and Tucker Carlson's podcast, they are by far way more popular than any primetime show that you're going to find on cable television right now. It is refreshing. And
that and
what's that?
That and Caller Daddy. That one's doing good too.
I've never actually listened to that. I
actually got caught bashing it to be like, what is the benefit of going on this dumb hooker podcast? And my wife was like, they've actually evolved quite a bit since like that. And I was like, all right, fair enough. I've actually listened to 0 seconds of any episode. So
yeah, what's her name? Something.
I want to say Corinne Fisher.
I thought it was Cooper.
Let's see, host.
Who's Alex?
Alex Cooper. Oh, you're right.
Okay. Because they had
I think
her.
Corinne Fisher is a stand-up comedian who was discussing that podcast the other day. So
okay, gotcha. I mean, I've never watched it. I don't know. Could be funny. I don't know. It's clearly, you know what I mean? It's like at a certain point.
What I was informed by my wife, it started off as kind of a feminist talk about hookup stories podcast. There was a big breakup between her and the podcast mate. She since then found love and become a more mature woman and actually talks about women's problems now. So
that's great. That's awesome. I'm not gonna knock it. And also it's like I'm not gonna sit here and have like incel energy and say like, oh, it's like she's just hot. That's why, if I was a hot chick, our podcast would be so, you know what I mean? It's like that's some incel energy that should be rejected.
Yeah, I'm gonna say also not hot anymore. In the risk of sounding like that incel energy you were just trying to get us at arm's length with. to be a gross pig. She got kind of old after a while.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. Yeah. Side difference. Yeah. No, she's not hot anymore. No way. Of course.
Coming from a solid 5.5 over here. I don't think she's that hot. I'm 50 pounds overweight. But she ain't that hot, man.
Right, I've done way better. Yeah, no, for sure. That's yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of things that are refreshing that should be celebrated. But yeah, I don't know. It's all so show me this ad. I want to see this.
Yeah, I was about to say before we run out of time, I do have to show you my favorite ad here, and we can send it out commenting on this one if I can find it. The Man Enough ad.
Oh, here it is. Let me add space.
Meat.
Go ahead and start that over for me, please.
Oh, excuse me.
Man enough to deadlift 500 and break out of my daughter's head.
I'm a man.
I'm a man.
I'm a man, and I'm man enough.
I'm man enough to enjoy a barrel-proof bourbon.
Neat.
Man enough to cook my steak rare.
Man enough to deadlift 500 and braid the out of my daughter's hair.
You think I'm afraid to rebuild a carburetor? I eat carburetors for breakfast.
I ain't afraid of bears.
You eat a lot of carburetors for breakfast, bro.
I'll tell you another thing I sure as shit am not afraid of.
I have to do one quick pause. Both this gentleman, the I eat carburetors for breakfast, and this next gentleman, I'll start it again.
I ain't afraid of bears.
That's what bear hugs are for.
I'll tell you another
I think both that guy and the guy right after that reek of gay Hollywood actor to me. Don't they?
The guy that was right before this got his legs crossed on the back of the tailgate.
Yes.
Yeah, that guy. It's like suspicious. Anyways,
reek of actor energy. All right, back to it.
Another thing I sure as shit am not afraid of. Women.
I'm not afraid of women.
I'm not afraid of women.
They want to control their bodies. I say go for it.
They want to use IVF to
Scared
start
of
a family.
vaginas.
I'm not afraid of families.
They want to be childless cat ladies.
Have all the cats you want.
Woman wants to be president?
Well, I hope she has the guts to look me right in the eye and accept my full-throated
That guy's gay.
Because I'm man enough to support her.
Man enough to know what kind of donuts I like.
Man enough to admit I'm lost, even when I refuse to
Man
ask for
enough to
directions.
admit I'm
Man enough
lost.
to not
You're-
ban
that
young
guy's gay
women
too, I
from
think.
reading Little Women.
Or one of those pants books that the sisters like.
I'm man enough to raw dog a flight. It sucked. Not worth it.
I'm man enough to be emotional in front of my wife.
In front of my kids.
In front of my horse.
I'm man enough to tell you that I cry at Love Actually.
Good
Yeah, that
Will
guy's gay
Hunting.
too.
West Side Story. That and Predator.
And I'm sick of so-called men domineering, belittling, and controlling women just so they can feel more powerful.
That's not how my mama raised me.
I love women.
I love women who support their families.
Women who decide not to have families.
Women who take charge.
And I'm man enough to help them win.
Dude. What? What was that? Dude, that big dude who's I'm man enough. Like, I heard the lisp. He couldn't even hide his fucking gay lisp.
Him and the gentleman, like you said, with his legs crossed on the back of the truck. I feel like they both lisped through half of their lines.
could-
Like,
dude, he
and
couldn't
not to
even
say
hide-
that no straight men have lisp, but those two guys
Speech
really,
impediments for all
it
of
had
us.
my gaydars beeping a little bit, you know?
Dude, they actually thought that was a good ad.
Yeah.
Who okayed that? Those like, dude, these same people. It's like, Logan, I'm having a crisis right now. I'm having this utter crisis because I think, like, I know
Matt's
I'm not
wiggling
that
a lot in
smart.
his seat. For anybody who's not watching the video, he's very uncomfortable.
I know I'm not as smart as I wish I was, but
You're not
I'm
as smart
out
as I
here-
wish you were either.
that's fair. That makes two of us. That probably more than just two. There's probably a lot of people in my life that have believed in me. That wish I was smarter than I am. However, how are these people getting jobs? Who is in charge of that campaign and said, like, that's a good ad, run it? Like, how much did they get paid? Like, who is in charge of Bud Light marketing that says, let's, like, you know, it's like, how are they getting these top tier jobs, making hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I'm out here scraping and struggling to get a business off the ground? And it's like, well, it's like, I'm smart. I can tell you that that's a bad ad. Like Kamala Harris, do you want to win? Don't run that ad. That's horrible. Like, if uncross his legs, like uncross his legs and get some dude that doesn't have a lisp. You know, it's like, what is going on?
It was such a rough. I mean, it
Dude, that
reeks
was-
of. It feels a lot like. Have you watched The Boys?
Mm-hmm.
So I've enjoyed that series and still will probably be on board for another season.
I haven't watched
But-
any of the new season. I'm waiting for them to
Well,
finish it so I can
yeah,
just
wait for
binge
it.
it.
And it's not like. Pretty sure it's finished.
Oh, is
Anyway,
it?
regardless.
Well, that's good to know.
You can feel as the show got more popular, and it's not that it didn't have any political leaning, but you can really feel the liberal writing room towards the later seasons, I feel like, and it gets a little exhausting because it's starting to get close to the political message, overtaking the story message a little bit. But it's a lot of that. It's these like people who live in these ideological ecosystems that completely despise and don't understand the views of the other side, writing to convince the other side of their view. And they have no tools in the toolbox because they don't even understand the argument the other side's making or the values that the other side holds close to heart. So you end up with stuff like this where it's like, man, at no point have I wanted to vote more for Trump than after watching that ad.
Right. That's a really good way to put it. Like, seeing that ad actually makes me want to go vote for Donald Trump. Just like, if you think that, and this is why I hate it, is that you can't, because there's a lot of legitimate arguments. If you want to argue against why Donald Trump should not be the next president of the United States, I'm down with them, because I will sit there and
good reasons,
march in lockstep with you and agree. Yep, he shouldn't be president because of that. Yep, yeah, absolutely disqualifying. Yep, we can go down those lists. But no, you're not going to actually have that intellectual argument about why he shouldn't be. You're going to try to demean me. You're going to try to belittle me. You're going to try to call me misogynistic, a misogynoir. Like you, I hate, not only do I hate women, but I hate black women, especially. You know, it's like those ads just make me hate the Democratic Party more. It doesn't make me hate Donald Trump more. It makes me hate you guys that you think so little, that you think that I could be swayed by these definitely suspicious, like suspiciously straight men that you put into an ad. And then try to like, oh, well, I'm a real man, and this is why I'm going to vote for Kamala Harris.
It reeks of a lot of that too. It's a lot of very clearly staged photo ops of caricatures of what they think a man is. There's the classic biker guy with the leather vest and the giant beard. There's the farmer sitting on the back of his tailgate with perfectly clean clothes on, by the way. Yeah. There's the big old burly guy who's really just kind of like a soft, chubby dude who we suspect is gay, and the black man with muscles sitting on the bench press, you know.
Right, and then there's the guy in the open flannel that's clearly not a flannel because he's in a place that's warm, and he's got a horse just tied up like outside of his nice adobe house that you can see the corner of. He's got just a nice little hitching post for his horse.
I want to say, I mean, for that gentleman, pretty good acting job considering the green screen clearly behind him with the horse. Nowhere near.
It is. It's like, do you think that? Well, maybe they do. Maybe they think just so little of people that aren't going to vote for Kamala Harris is that they assume that we're all just abject morons that can be swayed by a 45-second piece of propaganda. And but it's dude, seeing that makes me, it's like if we could vote immediately after this podcast, I would vote for Donald Trump. I will wake up and have a change of heart. I'd be like, I'm not gonna vote for Donald Trump. Like, why would I throw consensus to either of those two people? However, if I could vote tonight, I would vote for Donald Trump. Maybe this is why they have like 7-day like what's the holding period for guns? Like maybe it's is this how people feel like when they want to commit crimes of passion? Like it's like, I'm gonna go buy a gun right now.
I swear to God, if I see one more ad telling me how I'm not a real man, I'm gonna vote for Trump.
I'm gonna vote for Trump. I'll tell you, and there's no 7-day holding period's gonna stop me. I'll wait until that's over, and now I'm gonna go cast my. It's like, do you think I'm a fucking moron? Do you think I'm an idiot? It's like don't spare me. Like Obama, like do not tell me. Like stop lecturing me. And this is the thing, is like you guys are doing all of the things that make people hate you and want to turn to a monster like Donald Trump. That right there is why people will vote for Donald Trump. Dude, if I could vote tonight, TT all the way. Stop
fired up that got you. I knew that was a good clip, and I was excited you hadn't seen it yet.
Agate, let's go. January.
You're still revving up. You're gonna be up for 8 hours after this.
Dude, I'm fired up now. Dude, I actually got a text today about how we can stop Donald Trump if we just make the calls. I'm gonna text that number back and I'm gonna let them have it.
Text them that ad and just be like, how insulting can you be to me?
Dude, I'm gonna tell you.
Message.
Oh yeah, dude, I can't. I do. Yeah, that's like this makes me want to actually go canvas for Donald Trump. Just walk around the 4 houses that are in my neighborhood and be like, "Have you heard about our Lord and Savior Donald Trump?" may I come in? I'm just gonna put on the white tie or the white shirt, the white short sleeve shirt with the black tie, and it's like, "Can I come in and talk to you?"
I wonder what too, because I've shared that sentiment a lot, that I don't have a desire to vote for Donald Trump, but if anything was to make me, it would be my disdain for the ham-handed, grotesque political moves that the Democrats have made over the last 4 years. Right. And the way that they have just unabashedly, the Steele dossier and the rhetoric around the presidential candidate and the just blatant shucking of any responsibility on their own side to point at Donald Trump and the embracing of some of the worst politicians in my lifetime in support of them against Donald Trump. Those are the kind of things that would make me swayable, I guess, on some level.
Stop the steal, baby. Let's go.
Stop the steal. What do you think, as far as these undecided voters, this small sliver we have? What do you think the political acumen, education level is of an undecided voter? Do you think these are plugged in people, or do you think they're less plugged in, or do you think it runs the gamut?
I actually have no idea because I don't actually know an undecided voter.
Yeah,
You know,
I mean,
yeah, I literally do not know an undecided voter. I know people that are stoked to vote for Kamala Harris. I know people that are reluctantly going to vote for Harris. I know that people are going to reluctantly and closet vote for Donald Trump, though you will never hear them say it. I know some people that are outspoken Trump supporters, and I know people that are going to vote for Donald Trump, but they're not stoked about it, but they're going to do it. I know people that are not going to vote because they can't stand either. I do not know a single undecided voter. I do not know a single person that's just like, well, I'm kind of on the fence about this. So I don't know. Like, I don't. And what's interesting is that there's a big difference because when we talk about undecided voters, right, it's that there's a difference of somebody that is going to vote, but they're unsure who they're going to vote for, or somebody that is trying to decide whether they're going to go vote or not. There's a difference of those two people, and often I think that we lump them all together as like undecided voters, but they're not the same subset of people. There are people that it's like, I'm going to vote, I don't know who, and there are people like, well, I may or may not go vote. And I don't know how you quantify the impact of those, and I don't know who they are because I don't know them. I don't have any. I have no personal experience to like. Is this person educated? Are they not? How plugged in are they? I don't know.
Yeah, they're all in Pennsylvania.
I mean, yeah, they're in. I mean, Pennsylvania. There's a couple of things too that I don't think that Democrats understand like how precarious their position actually is, because there's somebody that I ended up like finding on Instagram. I followed him, had some interesting content for a while, but he just it became like a shill in terms of like the anti-Israel propaganda. And this person is in Michigan, and they on their page now are openly saying it's like, we can deal with a Donald Trump campaign or like a Donald Trump presidency, but we cannot support Joe Biden, Kamala Harris because of their Israel policy. You know what I mean? And so all of a sudden it's like somebody that you think is like, well, I would never expect. And all of a sudden, oh wait, they hate her so much. Right. They're willing to go vote for Donald Trump because the current administration's stance or lack of stance in response on Israel's response to October 7th is now a disqualifying factor. And so I think that there is a lot of people, and there's somebody like Mark Halperin who I appreciate his reporting. He's very plugged in. I think he plays it very just like even-handed. I actually have no idea like what political, you know what I mean? I don't know what his political stance is. He will sit there. He's like, I'm not rooting for Donald Trump. I'm not saying that he will win, but these are reasons that he could win. He's like, I'm not rooting for Kamala Harris. I'm not saying that she will win. These are reasons she could win. Like, I've been listening to this dude I read his Substack. I have no idea what his political leanings are. You can find him on OAN. And he used to do appearances on CNN too. You know what I mean? So it's like, he's kind of this political chameleon.
He's all over.
And I wonder how, I think that we're underestimating how many people just aren't stoked to say like, I'm going to vote for Donald Trump. No one is afraid to put a Harris Walls sticker on their car. No one is afraid to put a Harris Walls sign in their yard. There's a lot of people that are afraid to put a Donald Trump sticker on their car or a Donald Trump yard sign up, but they're out there. They're out there. And so I think we're underestimating. And that's something that Mark Halperin's been on for a while. He's like, don't underestimate this silent majority or silent minority of people that are going to go vote for Donald Trump, but they're never gonna answer a poll saying that they're gonna do it. They're never gonna show any sort of support, but they're gonna go into that ballot and they're secretly gonna punch for Donald Trump. And they're never gonna say, they're not gonna answer the exit poll. When asked by their friends and families, they're gonna say, I voted for Kamala Harris, even though that they didn't.
That is,
So-
yeah, there's definitely something to that. I mean, and I wonder how much polling is affected by that, because there's a level of anonymity to polling. So I wonder how many of them are braver in that aspect. But yeah, you're not wrong. There is a lot of people who will whisper to you their support of Donald Trump if they feel that they're in a safe space, but would never disclose that publicly at all.
Absolutely.
So the last thing I want to say before I let you outro us here and play us out for the afternoon is to circle back to this idea of like, how dumb do they think we are? Do you think that this pandering actually is effective? And that this scolding of us like we're children is something that can sway our vote when you have zero policy or benefit behind it, that it's just this repudiation of my opinion? I think they do think you're that dumb. I think they've always thought we're that dumb.
Probably.
And that this is maybe the first time in history with the advent of the internet and the social media and the ability for us to share information instantaneously and have a relatively free speech space in the new Twitter X, that it's kind of just coming to the surface now. And it's really on us as a citizenry. We have to make it a requirement that you start treating us with some level of respect, because right now they never have had to, and it's worked perfectly fine.
That's a good point. Yeah, I think they do think that we're that stupid. I think that they are political elite people that have lived in their own bubble, that have not had to deal with real people problems. Not to say that they don't have problems. Everyone's got problems. No human can.
Some of us are late
reflect-
on our mortgage. Other of us are worried about the Epstein client list coming out.
For sure. They got problems, but being late on your mortgage is a real people problem, and worrying about having your identity leaked on the Epstein flight logs is a elite people problem.
I did not have sexual relations with those children.
Depends on what your definition of is. It's like, all right,
Depends
Bill.
on your definition of statutory rape.
I know I've said this, and this is the horrible. This is not a good take of mine. But dude, if the president cannot give blowjobs by an intern in the White House, I don't want the job. All right, I know it's a bad take. I know. But what's the
One
point?
could argue that his mistake was picking the wrong intern, because Hill Dog had his back after it was all said and done. So really, it was just
Dude, she didn't speak to him for 7 months until she said that we need to bomb Serbia. That was what actually broke. That was what broke. She didn't speak to him for 7 months.
you know,
during that,
some
until it
girls
was
you buy
time.
flowers for, other ones you dismantle foreign regimes.
For sure. Others you bomb hospitals in Serbia for.
Happy wife, happy life. You know.
For sure. But I know it's a bad take of mine, but that's a position I just cannot watch. It's like, dude, what's the point of having a nuclear arsenal that can like eviscerate you? I can turn China into ash in an afternoon because I'm having a bad day, but I can't get a blowjob from an intern in the White House. Like, what the fuck is this? Like, this is you guys got no. I either get to do all of that or I get to have none of it. All right, so you either got to take away the nuclear codes from me, or I get to have blowjobs from interns in the White House. It's
I knew it was
that.
coming from you. I said this at the start of the episode. It didn't even take till the end of the episode before you're preaching monarchy now.
Fair enough. It's they probably do that. They probably do think that we're that dumb. They probably do hate us. I mean, you can't. I think it's very.
I don't even know if it's hate. I think it's just, like you're below them.
I think they hate us. I think they hate us the same way that what's Hugo Weaving's character in The Matrix? What's his character's name? The agent.
It's Agent Smith, I think. Anderson.
Okay,
No,
no,
Anderson's,
Mr.
Neo.
Anderson, that was Neo, but
It's
I
Agent
think
Smith.
I think they hate us in the same way that when he's interrogating Morpheus at the end of the
Sure.
first one, where he's just like,
Cancer.
you're exact. I think they hate us in that regard, where they just hate, but they need us because how else are they supposed to steal the wealth from working Americans and
Right.
out and
Somebody's
you know what
gotta
I mean?
generate
Like,
that wealth at some
you
point.
have to have happy tax cattle make more money. And so, but I think in their heart of hearts, they actually do hate us. And they probably do think that we're that stupid. And for that reason, we probably do not hate them enough. Like, I feel like I feel like it's not reciprocated. It's like, yeah, you can say you don't like the government, but you could always not like it more. You say you hate the corporate press, you could always hate it more. You say that you hate Drake, you can always hate him more.
You know what? You won me over. That impassioned speech. You're right. I'm gonna look deep in my heart and find more hate for the government and the corporate media, and I'll think about Drake too.
Don't you dare think about Drake. Like, lump them. They're all in there together. They're all in there together. Don't give that little faux black kid from the Toronto burbs that went to private school that was in Degrassi a pass. No way, dude.
Maybe you're right. I mean, it's a rise to the top despite at best mediocrity, if not outright malicious behavior. They're all pedophiles.
Yeah.
What are the comparisons we
heard. Heard. Yeah, agreed.
All right, before you go on another Drake rant, outro us here and you can talk all the shit about Drake offline you want.
All right, that's fine. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much for listening to Against the Mob podcast. We're always happy to be here with you. I will say that I still have some airtime. We do not despise the people that need to be despised enough. That is the government, that is the corporate press, and that is also Drake. And I'm sticking to those guns. All right. You can find us here coming to you live every Wednesday. The time fluctuates depending on when I get my shit together. It's like, dude, like I have real people problems. You know what I mean? I'm trying my best. I'm out here. This is our compromise. This is our way to get these things out to you without it being a filter of me because, well, we didn't release an episode for like 14 months, 18 because of me. So it's, so we're happy to be here. Logan, it's always a pleasure. Thank you for carrying the team in a lot of ways because I have real people problems, but you do too. You're real people. You're real people. So as always, we love you guys. Thank you very much. We will see once we fight against mob people over politics. We will see you next week. That is and I even forgot the outro music.
I was about to say, don't even have the music ready.
I was sorry. I was
just gonna absorb you. Some action, focus on pushing the button at the right time.
This is, like I said, this shows you your true priorities. I can get angry about the government, but I get really angry about Drake. Like, yeah, the fact that, that's all I got. All right, I'll spare everybody my Drake hate because I know I'm not alone, but I'm sure most people just don't care, and that's totally fair because it's all bread and circus. Make sure you hold your loved ones tight. You know who's important. You know what's up. All that good stuff. White pill, peace, love, yada yada. We love you guys.
Right.
See you
Let's
next
go
week.
watch Kamal eat a bag of dicks on Fox News now.